everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm just waiting for Mridula to connect. Thank you all. If anybody has any questions, you could just drop them in. There's an option for putting in your questions there. We'll be addressing them later. I think we have 2-3 minutes to go. So if you want to go grab a cup of tea or coffee, go ahead and do that. I'm just waiting for Mridula to come in. Thank you all. We'll be talking about the evolution of design media, and we'll have Mridula Sharma, who's the editor at Living Etc. She should be joining us shortly. Hi everybody. Sorry, I'm just waiting for Mridula to connect. Oops, I think I have flipped my camera by mistake. Yes. Yes, there she is. I think she's connected. Hello.
Hi,
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 how are
Tanya.
you?
Good, thanks. Good to be seeing you
I
again.
know.
How are you?
It's good to see you at the
How are you?
all well. Thank you so much for joining us today. How is
Pleasure.
Goa? How is Goa?
Goa's catching up. Our numbers have increased here, so things are getting a little tight, and I'm trying to get back the soon as possible. Yeah, but what I'm hearing about Delhi is not very, it's not very heartening, or that the numbers are going down. Numbers are actually getting obscenely high. So let's see. Yeah, I'm just waiting to get back to Delhi now.
I know. I think these are
But
absolutely unprecedented times,
I
and
yeah. But I was saying that I can't complain about being locked down here in Goa. So,
yes.
but yeah, but it's also, very peaceful, and you can do a lot more, in a quieter environment, as I'm finding out. So it's been yeah,
Can I request you to just
quite
come closer because we keep losing your voice? If yeah, I think that
okay.
yeah, this will be better because
Now,
yeah, this is much clearer, much clearer. Thank you.
yeah.
So
Oh, I could. Okay,
there
would
is
you want me to connect my head?
no. It's just that your
Do you want
voice.
me to do that?
No, your voice is coming and going. So I'm just trying to fix that before we sort of start the conversation. Can you hear me clearly?
Okay. Yeah, you loud and clear. I'm good.
Okay, great. So we'll just start. I think for everybody here, I mean, you don't need an introduction. Mridula is the editor in charge at Living Etc. India, and I think you've been driving it for I don't know how many years, Mridula. So maybe we can just start by just talking a little bit about your journey, and how you came to Living Etc. and then what happened there, and then this in its new guise you've been running a very fabulous show. So tell us a little about that, please.
So my design journey began way back in '97 when I joined Inside Outside. That was the formal thing. I mean, I had been doing a column for Indian Express shortly before I joined, and that was really the beginning. And I used to love the magazine. And when I got an opportunity to work there, I just absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite magazines. So I was there with them for 8 years. We had a fabulous set of people that we worked with. Sheila was a great person to work with. And I had joined at the Delhi bureau. Then I went on to Kerala. I set up an editorial bureau there. And then I moved to Agra, and then I covered Central India at that time. And then I moved back to Delhi, and I did a lot of work for the magazine from Delhi. And then I moved to India Today to launch Design Today at that time to work with, again, somebody who I'd worked with earlier, Elizabeth Eben. And she was, um, and from there, then I moved to Better Homes and Gardens that was being launched. So I worked there. And then in 2009, 2007, I joined Images Group, which was talking to IPC Media then to launch Living ETC. And then we ran it for 3 years, and then we restarted it in 2017 with Malayalam Manorama. So that's pretty much the journey. Of course, it's been different kinds of magazines, so it's been a different journey, or different experience each time.
Wow. You,
That's
I
pretty
mean,
much.
I think when it comes to design media in India, I mean, I think you've been around and you've taken it, you've gone through the, various sort of, you've taken us through the various, level steps of evolution, right? As Indian design has evolved, you have been a part of that journey with us.
Absolutely. It's been so interesting. And I mean, I really sometimes do think about sitting down to document how things were way back in the 90s to where we've reached now, and how things have changed, and how how design was only just a small thing about like interior design and architecture was more about building and less about, styling and interiors, how it's changed, and how now everybody seems to be involved in the space. So that is very, very interesting how it's become from a little section to a cosmos now. Design is now in India, it's become a cosmos. It's no longer just a sector also. Yeah.
What a wonderful thing to say. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you are part of this cosmos, and and Living Etc. has played a very important role in terms, especially because. Why don't actually before I give you what we think about Living Etc. Why don't you tell us what Living Etc. intends to do with its journey in design media?
So, Living Etc. Actually, we have a very clearly defined section of audiences. We have 3 or 4, uh, very strongly defined audiences that we are talking to, and everything else that comes in between. Like I said, that we are in a cosmos now. And our role, we see it as, connecting the different audiences. So we have the homeowners, the people who are making beautiful homes. Then we have the architects and designers who are making these dream homes for people who want to live in them. And then we have the brands and products in the market that, make fill up the home besides, once the walls are ready. And more than that, actually, I would say that we go a step further because we talk a lot about styling and trends. And that's where, we want to get the homeowners to put a stamp, their own personal stamp on their homes. So once the architect or the designer has done the house for the homeowner, we would like them to, personalize it and make it their own, and how to use these spaces. So that's pretty much what we are about, So if you were to say how we, that's what we focus on.
So this is what is very, very interesting about living, etc. That there is something in it for the end user, who's the homeowner. Then there is something in it for the architects, right? And you are actually bridging the gap between architects and designers, the homeowner, and the product. The product owner, the brand as well, right? And so how do you tie the dots between that narrative? How do you weave a narrative around these three?
So, it's not, once we have a vision, it's very clearly defined that we are going to connect our audiences. So we take on a role. We self-assume a role where we say that these are our audiences and we are here in this space to connect everybody. So we're like a hub. So we, the brands will come into look at us. The architects would be, curious to see what is happening and what is new in the thing. And also the homeowners are wanting to create their own little, signature style. So once we've decided that we're going to connect our audiences, then it's just like, it just happens, we just make sure that everything kind of comes together in a way that everybody would like it to be seen as. And we're also, kind of always looking for new talent. So that's the fourth thing. So you said, it's the homeowners, it's the architects and designers and the products in the market and the new talent, because we see a lot of new talent coming up now.
Yeah, of course.
So.
Of course. Actually, what we are doing with these FSL OPD sessions is that, these sessions are meant for the new talent, the young studios, the designers, and to help them understand how to enable better outreach, right? Which is to media and to the end user as well. And otherwise, how to sort of tie the dots within their own narrative, their brand narrative, right? Designers, inevitably, our focus is always on the design and the end product, right? How to put ourselves out there and how to curate our work and get it ready for media is something that we all find quite challenging to do. And I'm sure from a media perspective, you have, like you said, there are these four sort of key issues that you would like to address. And getting content ready for that, I'm sure as the editorial team, there is a lot that you're looking at, there's a lot that you need, and we are really here to sort of ask you those questions. How does Living Etc. sort of function, right? Do you have an editorial annual calendar, or do you have themes as per which you sort of drive your content? And what is, I'll come to that later, how do you prefer content to come to you? What is a good way for a designer or an architect to document their work and then send it to you?
So, yeah, it's very, very important that anybody who's sending out the material, that to understand that each magazine has a slightly different slant. So it would be good for them to send out material which aligns with that philosophy, rather than just sending everything at one go. Then it becomes, so the chances of it getting, so you do understand that we get a whole lot of material that comes into the, our inboxes and to go through all of it, and then to quickly, because we're a monthly magazine, so we have to very quickly, select and move things and do the layouts and put it out. So it's very important that for us, especially, that it comes the way we like it, in the sense it falls in line with what we are doing, and the chances of it getting picked up are far greater then. Yeah. So I would say that, if people do a little homework and do a little research, as okay, this X magazine is looking for. So if you have a set of 30 pictures, and you select, say, 6 or 7 which work according to one particular slant. So, I mean, here is the thing for even when the shoots are being done, or when the architects or people are getting their work documented. So it's always good to have a mix of some style shots, some heavily styled, some long shots, so that there is something for everyone, and then it doesn't look the same in every, because quite often you do see the same projects in different magazines, so it kind of helps to get a different look as well.
That's very useful actually, because that's where I think we've been talking. In fact, on some of these sessions, we spoke to a photographer as well, and the insight is that there is. I think architects and designers should get involved with the way they are documenting their work. Whether it's photography or writing.
Oh yes.
About, yeah, it's the most. In fact, that's what drives everything else, probably, right?
And that also shows, when you get a project where there has been an involvement, you can see it. Yeah. And it kind of, it speaks a language when it's been photographed in a particular way. So yeah.
Yeah, so you also work a lot on residential projects, right? I think that's the core focus area of the magazine, right? Are there projects that should be of a particular style, or are they, or do you look at a range of styles? Like I was saying earlier, are there certain themes that you look at monthly, or how do you sort of arrive at your monthly content? Because monthly content is, also very hard to generate, right?
It's like very, very fast paced, even though we really have to come around very quickly for the next issue. So we do have a calendar, and we do plan it, by the time the year comes to an end, by November, December, we've decided our next year's calendar. And we start tracking according to that.
Right.
And we have a system of tracking, and we have a system of, watching who's doing what. And yeah, so we do follow a theme, because unless we did that, we would not be able to do it. And the themes normally follow, what is happening around us around that time of the year. Say if we are in June, and say a June issue obviously would be more about sustainability, or how you can do things, and compared to a December issue, which would be more about party. It's a party issue, how to deck up the home for a party. And February or a March would be about spring, how to bring color in. So those kind of things, obviously, what is the mood around us, around our lives, that's what we decide on. Yeah, that's how we decide.
So, like you were saying, you're always looking at young talent and more newer people to showcase
Yes.
their work. So how do you find a balance between the names who've been around and young designers? How is, and of course there's national and international work as well. So how do you sort of approach that in terms of a curatorial perspective?
So we've defined particular sections in the magazine for new talent and for established. So like I said, that our role is also to tie in and to connect all the audiences. So we, once we know, because I think each magazine is also about a kind of a philosophy or a thought process, the kind of, new talent. So we're looking for innovation, we're looking for thought processes, we're looking for amalgamation of technologies, we're looking for artisanal upliftment, we're looking for, so we have like our specific things that we want to see who's doing what in these segments. And we track them, and we make sure that balance is maintained. Like our front of the book talks more about newer, younger people. And our back of the book is more for architects and more technical and heavier stuff. So that's how we kind of, we also realize that all of them, both whether it's a young designer or whether it's an established designer, they all need to be connected. So an established designer would be looking for newer talent, would be looking to see the new thought processes, and a new one would need to be inspired seeing what the seniors are doing and how they do. So the younger one is looking to see how the senior ones have reached where they've reached, And the senior ones would like to see the new thought processes, because the millennials and everyone has a fantastic way of thinking. I just love working with them because you come across such great ideas.
Yeah, yeah. And
So,
is yeah, it's amazing, right?
yeah, out of the box, which is very, very interesting. So personally for me as well, that's very interesting. So we stay connected. And so, like I said, once you have your vision kind of pretty well marked out, then everything just kind of, this works, and like we've been doing it for a while now. So you know exactly what works, what doesn't work, what fits in. So it's like become almost intuitive now. So the minute
So can you actually, this is
yeah.
really interesting, and you've said it yourself because you've been doing it for so long, it comes instinctively to you. Would you be, and we know that, in our audience here, we have a bunch of maybe young designers and older professionals as well, who are just looking for new ways to curate and document their work. So if there were three things that, if you had to tell somebody that there are three things that you must do, right, to send us your work and hopefully get it picked up by Living, etc., what would those three things be?
One would be, the foremost would be, just make sure that it's very well presented. It needs to be well presented. Yeah, the selection of pictures, and also the press release, like the formatting of the press release is very important. The fonts that are selected for the press release are also important. Some fonts can really agitate. So the layout of the press release is quite important. Of course, the first thing is, what is your story? So the story, clarity of the story is very important. Then the presentation is equally important, and also highlight what is new that you have done. What are the differentiation, what are the things that make you different from others? And if there are anything new, any new points, any new technology, or if there's any new technique or something that's being brought in, it is good to be told upfront.
Right.
So
That's very useful. And I am so glad that, you've said this, because I remember when we started out, the one thing, when we realized is that as architects and designers, a traditional press release format actually doesn't work very well unless you're talking only about an issue. If you're showcasing a project and you're sending a project to a magazine, it just is so much nicer and so much clearer if you send a visual press release. And I think that is something that if we all make it a practice, it is very, very useful, because at the editorial end, I'm sure you also find it much easier to evaluate and decide on a project.
Yeah, because it speaks. The presentation speaks.
Yeah. And as designers,
So,
I always say design is like a way of life, right? It's not only applicable to a building or a house.
it's not a plug in, plug out. It's a way of life.
And so it has to be.
So once that, it has to reflect. Yeah. Of course, I mean, when we know, one does. But the first, what I'm saying is that if it needs to be caught at the first eye, then it has to be very, very well presented. That's the first thing.
Great. So, that was really good insight on what it sort of what is needed to sort of get your work together and put it out there. In today's context, of course, right? Design has gone digital as well, and there's been a transition from just print to print and online, and in certain cases, just online as well, right? And I think while Living Etc. was one of the early ones who had started its online presence, much earlier on, and you were there on social media, and the platform was engaging with the community at large. How you personally found that transition to be?
So, I think this lockdown has been really good in many ways for professionally for us, because digital was something that so far we had only worked or let it grow organically. We never kind of, we were just, for us, it was happening on the side alongside. But we always knew that we needed to do more and we needed to do it faster. But we were just not able to, at least I was not able to peel myself away from the physical production and the physical copy, because monthly being monthly, there was very little time or mind space to devote only to digital, which I think digital needs, it's a different ball game. So it needs a different, at least it needs a little, in-depth kind of studying it, and how you present and how you kind of work, and what you put out on digital is very different from what you put out on will be different from what you put out in the print when we come back. So it needed time, and this lockdown has given us this fantastic break to do this. So yes, of course, design has gone, it had already gone digital before the lockdown. And for us as well, it's, our content, there's a lot of content which will now be on digital. Like you had, yeah, there'll be a lot more work on happening on digital now.
And also, I guess in digital, I do feel personally that content needs to be far crisper. People have shorter sort of attention spans when they're looking online, and especially on, I mean, if you're putting content on social media, you're just sort of scrolling through. So I think it's also an opportunity to really, from an editorial perspective, narrow down your focus and put out content that is extremely relevant, right? And that may keep changing. I'm sure the turnaround time is much quicker, but it's much more very, very focused, which I think is great, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, even for us, how we present and the focus will keep the thing. And we're also kind of evolving as we go along, so we know that we will be adding more sections, we'll be changing some sections. So we're also changing our thing the way, because digital, and earlier we were like mostly, earlier when I say pre-COVID, we were more like a lot more on physical and say 30 to 40% on digital. Now we're at least immediately going to be at least 50-50. And as we go along, I have a feeling that the magazines will be, the physical copy will be more experiential, and your information and the content and the infotainment part of magazines will be moving to digital space. And the magazines will stay as more experiential. So we will also be, looking at how the content is presented so that it is more experiential.
That's really interesting, and I think that is going to be defining media in the post-COVID world, as we call it today.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you find challenges of working with digital media? I mean, there are pros and cons. Today, while we're sort of moving on to the digital media, what do you feel are challenges that you face as an editorial team or as somebody who's curating content?
Actually, digital is not that difficult, not really too much of a challenge, because one, you get fairly decent quality. The technology is pretty good now, so you get fairly decent quality on your phone pictures, and internet is pretty good, so you don't have problem. As long as you have your people and you are connected with people, you can get information and you can get visuals. So, and most of the brands and people, the architects and designers and everybody is on digital platforms, so it's not difficult to connect. I really don't see digital is much of a challenge. It's just that, you need to be quick, and we need to just keep bringing out. The good thing about digital is that it stays with you.
Yeah.
So and if I put out something,
yeah, whatever. Yeah, and it's a great reference.
It's a good. Yes, you can create your own scrapbooks. Like when the lockdown had just begun, we started something called Create Your Own Scrapbook. So in the physical magazine, we have a section called Design Project, where we give ideas, so every section has its purpose. So Design Project in the magazine would give you ideas, like, maybe 6 months, 8 months later, when you decide to redo your kitchen, these are the ideas that, this is how you could do it. So this is just, when it's in your head and you're planning and all. So we put all those pictures out. So for our people, our audiences, to create this scrapbook. So once the lockdown is over, you plan to redo your kitchen. Here are 20 ideas that you could pick on and create your scrapbook, so that when you're ready to go to get the work done, you have a reference for your designer.
Which is super useful.
And it's Yeah, yeah. So it's how, that's the interesting part of digital.
Okay, and
That is.
I'll ask you a tough one. As an editorial team, how do you, what would you pick? Editorial theme or trends?
No, it has to be the theme and the trend,
Right, right.
because one theme, the themes, say in a year or say maybe 24 months, you'll have four different, you'll have whatever the theme is. There is so much happening in the design world right now that there is something new, there is a new way of doing it, or there is new technology, or there is innovation, or there is a new way of looking at it.
Sure.
So every theme will have a trend. So we will overlap.
Yeah.
We will overlap both.
That's that's an interesting way to look at it, because I think just based on my experience, and I'm an architect too, right? I think designers shy away from the word trends usually. So I think this is a good way that all editorial themes also will look at trends, and trends, while trends may come and go, they also sort of stay consistent over a period of time. Certain things one needs to look at
Yeah,
as climate changes, as weather changes. And so while you may not want to
absolutely.
look at, I mean, it's not like monsoon trends will not change every year. They will change, while in principle the principles will stay the same, but the approaches and the
Yes,
innovation will change.
true. And every year, these days, things are happening so fast that you will have new things. Next monsoon, you will have something new to talk
And
about.
also
Somebody
from,
or the other, somewhere
yeah,
now working on something which will come out at the time when we are ready for the next monsoon.
also from a product and brand perspective, I think trends are a great because that's where the innovation is happening, right? That's how new products are being showcased. So I would assume
True,
from when
true.
you sort of bring in that aspect editorially, then trends become useful, right?
Trends become also, I know trends, you cannot keep doing and redoing a home. So the easier way to kind of bring in a trend into a home is through these products, which can be turned around, which can be, also moved. We always don't have the same pieces, accessories all the time in the house. So you bring in the trends through these smaller pieces, which which can turn around, which can change, which can, say, 2 years later, you can change, say, the upholstery, or you can change some bits of, while the overall decor doesn't need to change. So you bring in the trend and the theme together like that.
Sure. So I will.
So that.
I have my last question, and then we'll move to the questions from the audience. We have a few already. So beyond editorial and stories and narrative, right? How do you, I mean, I think media really sort of drives and changes the world around us. What do you think? How do you think Living Etc. is going to do more than just editorial in design? What do you think its role is? And as we move to the digital world, I see that changing a lot.
So, one thing that this lockdown has done, it has really made engage with their own surroundings, especially homes. And we are a homes magazine. So people have, I'm sure people homes in a different way now that they've spent so much time at home. Be it the layout of the kitchen, be it the floor movement in a kitchen. So even if the kitchen remains the same, even if you might want to change where the gas stove is, where your hob is, because maybe it wasn't, when you bought the apartment, it wasn't thought about, and you were doing too much of crisscrossing within the kitchen. So now that we've spent so much time at home, everyone would be looking at redoing things, engaging more with their spaces. And also a lot more DIY would have, I think we're going to go also more towards DIY, which we have shied off
Yeah.
so far. Indian market, Indian customers, Indian consumers were not looking at DIY because, when you have somebody who'll come and do it, why would you mess it
Yeah.
yourself? Yeah. So there will be more DIY, there will be more engagement with, not necessarily always in the high end, there will be a lot of, a lot of eclectic work happening because people would, would be happier mixing things. I think we would be looking at a far eclectic uh, decor in the coming months, and people doing things for themselves and getting to do whatever they feel that they, maybe a wall, maybe a door needs to shift, maybe they need to have. So there has been this great engagement with your own home because, let's face it, all of us have, get ready in the morning, lock up the house, and come back late night or maybe late evening, tired, and just watch some TV and go to sleep. Very, very few of us really get that luxury to experience our own homes.
Yeah.
So this lockdown would have really made that difference, and I would see a lot more at all levels.
Yes.
At all levels.
Completely agree. Completely agree. So I thank you so much for this last insight, because I do think we all also, it's giving everybody an opportunity not just to experience our home, but really evaluate the way we live. I mean, I personally, I know that the minute this lockdown happened, you started looking at everything. You see things around you, how the world is moving, and you're looking at everything from the food you eat, from the food you make, recycling, wastage.
Yes.
How much food is being wasted. I mean, these are things that suddenly, you start looking at very closely. Even the fact that you're not stepping out
Yes.
every day, what is it that you really need? The bare necessities of life suddenly come to the forefront. So yeah, I think, this.
There's a lot of rethinking happening at a very subconscious level, I'm sure, for everybody.
Yes.
And it will manifest itself in a altered way of life.
And
Hopefully,
design is,
I'm sure it'll be.
and a direct impact on design, right? Because design is what sort of informs way of life. Yeah.
And that is going to, and design is going to shape a lot of it as well. Design is going to shape a lot of it.
That's a really good thought to sort of end on. But I will now just take some questions from the audience. The first question that somebody asked, sorry, I think that's my camera. How do we find out what the editorial calendar, monthly calendar is? Is it something that you share? Is it open?
You just write into us.
Okay.
If you really want to know, we don't. I mean, we share it with the people who we need to share it with.
Right.
But as of now, write into us and we will send it out.
Okay. Great. Then of course a lot of people are really inspired by your journey, and I think what you were sharing in the first bit of the conversation, people have loved that bit. So we have some comments on that. Another question, I think somebody's even asked, how can they join your team? So
Write into us, call us.
Yeah.
Because we're all, it's, so that's the whole thing is we are always looking for more people in the sense who can contribute in their own capacities. It's not like, you don't have to be on the rolls. You can be a freelance. There are many ways. Yeah. There are many ways that you can get connected.
Great. That's very
so
interesting. Somebody's asked, does the magazine only focus on living spaces?
It's a homes magazine. So it relates to 80% of the magazine, 80 to 90% of the magazine relates to homes. And I would say about 20% would be like hardcore, 25% on hard other stuff. But we are primarily a homes magazine.
Right. Do you consider hospitality spaces at all? That's also one of the questions.
We have sections at the back of the book where there is there's a very high design quotient on a place. We mention those over there. We have a section for hospitality. Yeah.
Another question that somebody's asked is, as a designer who might be starting out, right, only by let's say designing small spaces like a bedroom, for example, can they package their design and share it? And would you, with Living Etc., be interested in stories like that?
Of course, because you see, this is exactly what we do in our design project. If you study, that's what I'm saying, anybody who wants to send out material to any magazine must study the magazine that they want to send it to. So if you're studying Living Etc., you will notice that we have a section called design project where we're only looking at ideas, right? So if you have, even if it is a bedroom, and those go by themes, you could have a bedroom, you could have a living room, one section, we could have bathrooms, we could have kids' rooms. So, and those are just single pictures. So if you have one good picture with a great idea to send, we could use.
That's really good to know. I think that's because we get this asked this question a lot on the episode OPD sessions, that we are young, we have limited projects. How do we get our work featured, right? And for you to allow that opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking for, we're looking for thought processes, we're looking for innovation, we're looking for new ideas and designs. So even if it is just a room, certainly it's what makes it stand out is what is new that you have done. How are you different? And different in a balanced, in a nice way, not just different for the sake of being different, but being different in a nice aesthetic way. And if it's a single room also, we are okay. In fact, we do welcome, we do encourage.
That's really good to know. And I think that was sort of the last question for the day. Thank you, Mridula. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing, the secrets of living, etc., with us. And thank you thank you for being there in this sort of community, and helping us shape a better design world. It's I think because of you and your passion for design that we are able to share knowledge. We have access to such wonderful curation of work. Thank you very much.
Totally wonderful. Believe me, design is it can really, I mean, I just don't understand why would anybody not be connected to design, because it's something, it's next to, it's next to your skin. And we have come in India, we've come a long, long way from, where we were to what we are today. And with the amount of new things that you're seeing, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more interesting stuff coming up. So it's great to be, I feel privileged that I've been able to stay consistent to this field and not moved out. Like, see, once you're a journalist, you're a journalist. So, and then I stayed consistent. So that, yeah, I've loved it.
You've played such an important role in this evolution, right, for design and design media in India, that, I mean, really, we should all be very glad, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. No, it's been my delight.
Thank you, Mridula. Thanks for being here with us on Episode OPD. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Tanya, to you, and thank you all the viewers and audience that have come in. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.